Time is the only real dimension that gives existence a sense of reality. Sure, the universe has 3 physical dimensions, but they are static and unexplorable without time. You can't move or interact with anything without time lending you a hand. You can't listen to ABBA, you can't eat a burrito, and you can't make jokes about your cheesy tastes in music or burritos without the passage of time. In fact, you can't grow anything at all without time. You can't grow a plant, a business, a relationship. You can't even grow a human without time. Time doesn't just make existence. Time is existence. So, hello and welcome to the Growth Mindset Psychology Podcast with me, Sam Webster, diving headlong into the psychology of self-improvement as always, with the odd side quest into philosophy. And today we are exploring some of the philosophy of psychology and how the nature of physics and existence both impact on our personal growth and how we can work with the nature of reality. A few weeks ago, I put out an episode on time that had a lot of feedback. So thanks a lot to the people who reached out to me. And today I want to present a few more ways of thinking about time. As I already mentioned, time is essentially existence. And when you think about all productivity advice, it's fundamentally about time and how you use it. All advice about making better decisions is also about time and how you use it. In fact, advice about your emotions and how we feel is also technically advice about time and how we use it, because if you realize that an emotion is merely an internal experience over a given period of time, managing your emotions relates to how you travel through the passage of time. So today I have a short but powerful episode on some really interesting concepts that I find myself continuously revisiting from different angles and working on, just as part of being a deep thinker who likes to ponder the point of what I do and where it will take me. My plan for the episode today for you is to give you a few useful frameworks to consider life using a bigger picture that will also relate to the mundane moments of the here and now, and will help you build more motivation for the things that you do and an understanding of what are the right reasons behind a decision that you might take. So, let's dig in and start by considering the concept of winning, or what we even understand as a good result or outcome. When thinking about time, we have to accept that time never stops. There's no pause button for the universe, sadly. But the fact that time never stops is not a bad feature about it. The eternal flow of time is the exact feature that makes it so wonderful. There is no end state. There's just a continuous flow of change. So besides the laws of physics, absolutely nothing you know will stay the same. As such, there is no such thing as winning in the concept of all time, because there is no end. Spain, for example, just won the European Football Championship this summer, but the competition will start all over again. And as Mitchell and Webb wrote in their comedy sketch about football, there is still everything to play for and forever to play it in. Furthermore, in 2,000 years, Spain might not even exist as we know it, and perhaps even football won't exist forever. Maybe in 2,000 years we'll all have turned into cyborgs with advanced capabilities and very warped interests. All we do know is that the world will change, and the joyous importance of a bunch of dudes running around a field and being better at putting a ball in a certain part of the field compared to a bunch of other dudes, well, a few weeks ago, that very act may have delivered ecstatic joy to an entire nation, but that specific act won't even be that important next year. On perhaps a more dramatic version involving actual life and death, you could consider Ghengis Kahn. He won battle after battle after battle, and over 2 decades of his rule, he is reported to have had over 500 wives, and he commanded a vast empire that pretty much covered most of mainland Asia. Yet, he never truly owned anything because he didn't truly command his own atoms. The atoms that made his body didn't care too much about his personal interests, and over time, they stopped working in the way that Ghengis Khan wanted them to, and they just drifted off into the rest of the universe as his body and his empire disintegrated over time. Now sure, compared to the average human being, Ghengis Khan made some vast, swirling patterns in the river of time that we exist in as time flowed. But it was still only patterns that lasted for a while, and ultimately he did nothing more than make some patterns in the river of time. In fact, all we can do as human beings is paint patterns in the river of time as it flows. That is all life is. And in case it sounds like I've been taking drugs, I haven't, I swear. I will explain what a pattern is. So when we think of a pattern, it's usually considered a repeated decorative design or event, but I am bending the definition a little bit for my own purposes here. A pattern might not be a repeated chain of physical structures or events as such. It's more a carving of order in the natural state of messy chaos. So if the universe is just a grand old mess of physical reactions and mixing of chemicals, well, a pattern is a more organized event. For example, white noise is just incoherent noise, whereas a pattern could be a recognizable sound. So even a word that you speak is a pattern, and it exists. It is a pattern of airwaves that exists in time for a moment as you speak them. And of course, most words are washed away and forgotten. However, some words can take hold for a while. When Julius Caesar was a proconsul, he had some big political aspirations. He just finished a very long campaign in Egypt when there was an uprising in Turkey, and so he went off to battle. It was expected to be another difficult campaign, but Caesar crushed them decisively and really quickly. And he was known for sending in-depth and quite brilliant field reports back to the Senate in Rome. Instead, he simply wrote the words, Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. And the tenacity to write such a pithy and powerful statement helped cement his dominance as a powerful leader, the likes of which Rome had never seen before. But the words were so catchy that the exact words are still known today. Even though Caesar wrote an entire book, which we've lost the record of, those words stood the test of time. And compared to just some random white noise and vibration of air particles, the phrase Veni, Vidi, Vici has consistently been repeated and caused people to think about them for centuries. Okay, so words can be patterns. Now, if you think of a song, that is by definition a pattern in time. When you write a song, it has a time signature, it has notes, and those notes are meant to happen at specific moments in time as the song plays along. If a song is good enough and well marketed enough to a specific audience, then other people will want to dedicate their own short time to focusing on listening to the patterns of notes that you've stuck in a song. And people who appreciate it might repeatedly play this song pattern of notes or listen to it with other people, and they'll dance their own patterns of self-expressed movements to it. In fact, even a painting is technically a pattern in time. And sure, as far as just the normal 3 dimensions are concerned, it's an organized pattern in that it coherently represents something and it isn't a random mess. But it's also a pattern in the dimension of time in that it is a temporary organizational situation arranged by the artist. The painting will eventually return to its ultimate state, which is just dissolved into more atoms that float off in their own individual journeys across the universe as the universe continues, just like Ghengis Khan and the cheesy burrito you ate last week, and anything else you could ever think of. I have realized at this point all the examples so far are creativity-related words, songs, paintings. So just from a different angle, if you think about, let's say, a mug of coffee that you pour your milk into, for the first few seconds after the milk has been poured, the milk and coffee haven't fully mixed into each other, and you can see swirling layers of patterns of milk versus coffee. But of course, over time, it mixes and just becomes a brown liquid due to entropy. And that is the random mixing of things. So what I really want to drive home here is that a pattern is a fight against the random entropy, where entropy is driving things to just be mess, whereas a pattern is trying to keep things in order. So a job is a pattern of behaviors and functions as opposed to you just doing random stuff with your day. A loaf of bread is a pattern of ingredients combined and then cooked in the right order to make the output of the loaf of bread. A relationship is a pattern of consistently being there for each other and spending time with each other instead of you just randomly interacting with different humans. So merely by being a human, you are constantly fighting chaos and entropy and trying to create order and patterns in your life. And that is all we do over time. So when I stated earlier that all you can do is paint patterns in the river of time, hopefully that makes some more sense now. And you might still think I'm on drugs, but that's fine. I told you it was going to be philosophy of psychology. I do promise you that this will directly line up with the field of positive psychology and will have been worth your while. Anyway, an interesting point to ponder here is that when we think in terms of infinite time, when you consider the life of a painting that might exist for many years, or the life of a word that is spoken over a split second, they are essentially the same length, and this is a mathematical principle I'll explain. Anything that has an end, and by definition is not infinite, if you compare that to infinity that just keeps on going on and on, well, the thing that does end, compared to infinity, actually basically gets compressed to virtually nothing. Whether it was half a second or 1 year, it's still virtually nothing compared to infinity. And in the same way, Spain could win the Euro football championship once or 100 times, and that feels like a big difference. But in 2 million years' time, when Spain doesn't exist, football doesn't exist, and perhaps humans don't even exist, it kind of won't matter. It won't make a difference whether Spain won once or 100 times. Of course, it is still important now for some people, but the river of time will wash it all away. Okay, so hold that thought. We're going to have a quick break and come back to explain how this all relates to you. For 30,000 years, men have been wrestling with their hair. Archaeological records show that they even used sharpened clamshells and shark teeth to deal with it. In fact, shaving wasn't popularized until Alexander the Great forced all of his men to shave so that their opponents couldn't grab their beards in battle. The good news is you can put away the flint knives and stop hacking away at your body jungles because the new Manscaped Lawnmower 5.0 has arrived and it is amazing. I love being able to just take it in the shower, and as I'm a runner and a cyclist, not having the post-shave itch is just heaven. You can step up your grooming game and experience precision like never before with dual skin-safe blade technology, so you don't accidentally chop off anything you're not supposed to be chopping off. Hair today, gone tomorrow. Be a cut above the rest with Manscaped, and they are offering listeners of the show 20% off any order and free shipping with the promo code GROWTH, or visit manscaped.com/growth. Links are in the description. That's manscaped.com/growth to sort out all your hairy situations.
Want a website with unmatched power, speed, and control? Try Bluehost Cloud, the new web hosting plan from Bluehost, built for WordPress creators by WordPress experts. With 100% uptime, incredible load times, and 24/7 WordPress priority support, your site will be lightning fast with global reach. And with Bluehost Cloud, your sites can handle surges in traffic no matter how big. Plus, you automatically get daily backups and world-class security. Get started now at bluehost.com.
The largest ever book burning in history occurred in 213 BC in China. Ordered by Emperor Qin Shi Huang, he sought to suppress intellectual freedom. Well, my sponsor Shortform are on the opposite mission. They are helping unlock the multitude of ideas stored in the world's best non-fiction books. Shortform is by far my favorite book summary app because they really care about information density. A light, fluffy book only needs a short summary, but a dense book with a lot of difficult ideas can't be summarized in just 15 minutes. Short-form summaries are built for the intellectually curious people out there who truly want to learn and understand things and Shortform even have downloadable PDFs and quizzes to test your knowledge. Long story short, Shortform is where it's at. Listeners of the show get a free trial and 20% off their annual subscriptions at shortform.com/psychology. Link in the description. That is shortform.com/psychology for a free trial and 20% off an annual subscription. And now let's talk about you. Even your body is just a temporary state that works to let you think thoughts and do your actions day by day as you wish. The atoms in your body are held together by flows of energy that are working together consistently and has been doing so your entire life and will continue for the rest of your life at least. Now, when we make big decisions, things that we want to do with our life, the really deep and only question we are actually considering is, what patterns in time do we want this body to create whilst it exists? And then you might break that down further into the segment of, are the patterns that it's going to create worth other humans spending their time focusing on, or are the patterns going to be purely created for one's own delight? So if you're trying to do stuff for other people, maybe you're trying to make a good video for YouTube or TikTok, or you're trying to be a worthy sporting opponent. Perhaps you want to invent a new solution to an old problem and drive worldwide adoption of your ideas. Or if you're doing things for your own delight, maybe you are singing in the shower, walking the long way home, or surprising your partner with a cute message, or eating cheesy burritos. Random side note, you may have picked up I like burritos. Importantly, the things that we do for ourselves don't need external validation and are purely based on our self-interests and tastes. However, try to create patterns in time that stick around, like a song or a business. They require the appreciation of others. Wrapping your words in a book can give your words a brilliant refuge against the onslaught of time, but only if it's worth the continued focus of people reading it. Otherwise, it will get forgotten. So on that, we can talk about the concept of legacy. They say that we have two deaths, the day that we die and the day that people stop thinking about us. I think this relates to the fact that as humans, we have an innate desire to be remembered and to have a legacy. Yet, oddly, your legacy doesn't matter to you at all when you are dead, because you're dead. Tutankhamun's tomb was lost for a long amount of time, long enough for him to die his second death. But he was blasted back into the public conscious in 1922 when his tomb was discovered, and he was at least reborn from his second death. Tutankhamun's tomb was possibly the best preserved collection of ancient objects discovered in their original state that we have. It gave us an amazing glimpse into the life of ancient Egyptians and our roots as humans. Tutankhamun became probably the most ancient individual to have ever lived, who still experiences worldwide fame today. Now, does that make him luckier than all the other pharaohs we've mostly forgotten about, or luckier than all humans ever before him? Well, no, it doesn't. He's dead. He is just another dead person who can't experience joy. He can't delight in making patterns in time for his own amusement. He can't dance. He can't walk the long way home. He will never eat a cheesy burrito. And so it's worth noting that we can get a bit too wrapped up in doing things worthy of being remembered. And the pun of getting wrapped up in things is intended, Mr. Tutankhamun, and I know you can't hear me because you're dead. Importantly, we forget that anything we do almost certainly won't be remembered for long, and even if it is remembered, it doesn't really matter. So we could spend a bit more of our time optimizing for experiencing joy and living versus doing things that we would have liked to have done because it sounds good. If you listen to the Thinking Fast and Slow episode, you might remember that Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Award-winning psychologist, gave the advice that to increase our happiness in life, we should think more about our experiencing self rather than optimizing for our remembering self. And this is an area of positive psychology I really agree with, and why I've gone on such a philosophical journey with you today to provide a very different lens to come to the same conclusion, because I think these really hard but important, powerful lessons from psychology should be attacked from many different directions so that the lesson becomes more ingrained and we find more ways of actually acting upon them and following them. Now, when we arrive at the lesson that we should optimize for our experiencing self, that of course doesn't mean that we should be eating donuts for breakfast or quitting our job and giving up on our book ideas. If you think about it, writing a book might be one of the most joyful things that you could do with your time. After all, we are only here to make patterns in the river of time, and a book is just as worthy a pattern to make as anything else you might do. It's all ultimately very subjective upon you and what matters to you rather than what matters to others. The important thing is that you do the things that you do for the right reasons. You have a life to be lived and you only have a certain amount of time in which to live it, and all you can do is mess around and have fun or paint patterns in the river of time, as I philosophically and perhaps a bit weirdly have been stating. And you have to enjoy the things that you are doing, and that does mean challenging yourself a reasonable amount and doing hard things. It also means taking rest, spending time on relationships, and perhaps most importantly, not worrying about the fact that everything you do will get washed away. If you were to draw something on a sketch pad where everything gets reset before you can make a new drawing, you don't worry too much if sometimes your drawing doesn't work out and you fail. You can still invest time in trying to make it pretty and then you just start again. Well, everything in life doesn't last, so it just doesn't matter if you make some mistakes or it doesn't go quite how you want it to. The paradox of life is that the things you do don't matter, but what does matter is that you enjoy doing it. So don't worry about what people think of you, things that don't work. They just do the things that you do for the right reasons, and don't stop trying and learning and being curious and open-minded to what the world has to offer you in the rest of the time you have left. Okay, that's the big message over for the day. And I guess it's my theory, which I may or may not be remembered for, which we have established doesn't matter. That all said, it is my view, backed up by psychology, which is why I've shared it, but I am just a bunch of atoms. And as the famous saying goes, you can't trust atoms. Atoms make up everything. Okay, on that awful joke of a pun, which I hope you got, otherwise I might sound very strange. When I say atoms make up everything, it's atoms build all physical structures, which is why they make up stuff. Now, introspectively thinking about myself, and I'm like, oh dear, Sam, you shouldn't be explaining a joke. This is bad news. But anyway, whether or not people think I'm completely bonkers or find me a bit odd, it doesn't matter. I hope that this episode has at least given you a few reasons to be positive about life and battle with your own concept of existence. On my side of things, I do have a few battles going on. I am interested to get to know more of you, the listeners. So if you do want to chat with me on the concept of philosophy, psychology, or ask some burning questions, well, you can book a free call with me on Wednesday afternoons, and there is a link in the description to do that. I am purely doing this for my own self-interest to actually understand more of who these people are that listen to my podcast, and if my terrible jokes make any sense. And I do like to hear what people are dealing with in their lives and help out. Otherwise, if you are feeling generous, then a good rating in your podcast app will make it more likely that I can carry on making philosophical podcast ideas and bring them into reality for a little while longer on the canvas of infinite time. And on that, remember that 2,000 years ago, the Greeks thought it was very virtuous and good to have a tiny penis. So things change, and what feels important now won't feel important forever, and that's fine. So have a bloody good day and keep being awesome.